Afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen, friends and well-wishers. My name is Verley James, and I'll be the person moderating this evening's activity. As per usual, and for those of us who are religious, we always begin our meetings by invoking the presence of the divine amongst us. And as such, we will move right into that aspect as I ask Mr. Kavanagh Campbell to say prayers for us. Mr. Campbell, please.
Good evening, everyone. May we all bow our heads for prayer. Most righteous, eternal, Heavenly Father, we thank you, O God, for this beautiful evening, this fair evening. We thank you, O God, for your people who are gathered here this evening in this meeting. While we're here, O God, gathered, we're asking you for your presence. Help us, O God, to plan. Help us to agree. Help us, O God, that when we should leave here this evening, we will leave here with a full understanding of what to do and to leave here on one accord. O God, bless each and every one of us collectively. Bless each and every one of us, O God, in every good way. Hear us now, O God, when we ask you to intervene. Be with us this evening. Help us now that we will be our own brother's keeper. Hear our prayers and we pray to Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell. Now that we have invoked the presence of the divine amongst us and the pace is set, we are going to go into this afternoon's meeting. Before I do the introductions, for some of us who may be assembling here for the first time, there are those amongst us who had assembled here in July of this year to discuss the issue on hand. At that meeting, there was still some uncertainty, some concerns on all parties present then. And as such, the National Works Agency, the agency who is leading this kind of project, solicited your presence again to share with you and to get your views on this proposed project. Of course, no man is an island. It takes all of us to arrive at consensus. And consensus is essential for us to move forward. I am therefore grateful that you are able to present yourself so that you can be brought up to speed as to what are some of the latest developments / concerns / decisions / proposals that we may arrive at. So I'm very grateful to you all, and I am also very grateful to the persons from National Works Agency. And at a later point in the evening, we will say a better thanks to these people. This evening, we have some persons sitting at what I call the head table. And I just want to introduce them to you. On the far end of the table, that's my left, the farthest point in my left, we have Mr. Roger Smith. Oh, I'm sorry, we switched positions. Okay, let me start at the other end. We have Jordan Poole. I hope I'm getting the pronunciation correct. And he's a civil engineer. Beside him, we have Moira, I got that correct, Williams, and she's also a civil engineer. Beside her, we have Crystal Lynn. Crystal Lynn is an environmental officer. And next to her is Jordan Poole, who is also Roger Smith, sorry, who is also who is the Director of Technical Services at the National Works Agency. Some of these persons, whose names I have called among others, will be making presentations here this afternoon, and I implore you to make notes of issues that are of grave concern to you, issues that you may think you want greater clarity on. Make a note of that, and at the appropriate time, we will take your concerns. In the audience, we have quite a representation from the community of Negril, the business community as well as well-wishers who may just be passing through Negril, but of concern. We thank you for coming, and we look forward to your involvement. And I see a hand going up. I will allow the hand now to speak.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
We have, can I?
Use the mic, please. Thank you. Could you just identify who you are so we can be on familiar terms?
Good afternoon. My name is Sophie Grizzle-Romero. We have already had a presentation, as you said. I would presume most people here have heard the original presentation. I'm asking you to let us know how long each presentation is going to be, because we don't want to be here for another 4 hours. And I'm also requesting that only the new sections of the presentation be done, because we've already seen the presentation that was done before. And I would also like to know where the coastal engineer is as well, please, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Point taken. Yes, we do not propose to be in this room for a very long period. I would hazard a guess and say no longer than an hour and a half to 2 hours. We are already 15 minutes late.
That's too long, sir.
We hope, I said I'd hazard a guess, we hope we will get through before then. The presenters have heard your comments, and I'm sure they will take it into consideration that we don't want to reinvent the wheel and to go over the whole script. We have already, most of us have already heard most of the project components and are therefore very much interested in what has been the new developments. So we will bear that in mind as we go forward. Making presentations here this afternoon, we will have, as I'm sure most of you may have an agenda, so we will follow accordingly. The NEPA statement presentation will be done by Patrice Gilpin, and that will be followed by Roger Smith, who is the Director of Technical Services, who will speak on the NWA statement. Crystal Lynn will address the design changes. That's important. And those will be more or less the persons who will make presentations, after which we will accommodate your questions and your concerns. Before we move further, is there any concern? Housekeeping ideas? I'll take your hand in a minute. Housekeeping ideas, the bathroom facilities are immediately behind us. If there is anybody who wish to visit such place. Yes, a hand went up. And I hope these questions are questions to set the pace, not to delve into the content of the presentation. Yes?
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Viara. I'm a resident of Negril. I have a concern. We were told that we were coming here to hear about 2 material changes to the plan. According to the handout that you've given, the changes are that they will not be dredging the South Negril River and that the construction site at the end of the project will be pulled down. If that's what we're here to hear about, you could have sent us in a letter, an email or something, because to have people come here, give up their time, it's coming on to our busy season, people have come from Kingston. Sorry, our concerns went way more than just dredging the river and pulling down a construction site. And you know, it's really sad if this is what NWA and NEPA has decided to come bring us here to tell us.
Point taken. I myself is not privy to what you just said in terms of the handouts, but I am sure the presenters will be able to clear up that. We're going to move right into it and trust that your concerns will be borne in mind. The first presenter is Ms. Patrice Gilpin, and Ms. Gilpin is going to share with us the NEPA statement on the project. Ms. Gilpin.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, stakeholders. On July 29, 2014, the first public presentation in regards to the application for the construction and maintenance of 2 breakwaters, approximately 1.5 kilometers off the coast of Long Bay at Long Bay Negril by the National Works Agency was held. Please be reminded that the beach license application, which is application number 2013-10017 BL00003 for the proposed project was received on January 21, 2013 by the National Environment and Planning Agency. Upon review of the information presented in support of the application, conducting the environmental screening and site inspection, the agency determined that an environmental impact assessment, or EIA, was required for this project. The EIA report was submitted to the agency on April 29, 2014, and was circulated to various entities for review. It was also made available online for public review and comments. Subsequent to the first public presentation, the agency, having reviewed all the comments, concerns, and grounds of objections, provided these to the proponent on September 12, 2014 to facilitate the required response. The proponent was provided this response, and in a letter dated October 1, 2014, he indicated that the scope of the project would be changed. The agency determined that the nature of the changes necessitated that the stakeholders be informed of these changes by way of this public meeting. This public meeting is guided by specific terms and conditions, and the team from the National Environment and Planning Agency is here to ensure compliance. The agency and authority views this public consultation as integral to the review process, and any issues raised by you, the stakeholders, will be treated as material consideration. The agency is, however, in attendance at this meeting only to observe the proceedings and to record the issues raised. Subsequent to this statement, The agency will not be engaged or answer questions, as in this meeting, this is the sole responsibility of the applicant and the consulting team. Please be reminded that the authority has made no decision on the application at this time. The process with respect to this public presentation is as follows. A copy of the verbatim minutes from this presentation is to be submitted to the agency by the applicant within 4 days. The public has the opportunity to provide written comments to the agency within 4 days of the date of this presentation. The issues raised along with the responses provided by the applicant will be incorporated in the submission with a recommendation to the authority. The technical merits of the project will be deliberated by the Natural Resources Conservation Authority, which is the body with the sole responsibility for making the final decision. This public meeting is extremely important in the decision-making process, and your comments are important. Comments may be sent in writing to the agency at 10 Caledonia Avenue, East 5, or via electronic mail to applications@nepa.gov.jm. Here's a reminder. The EIA and associated documents are available for access by members of the public at the following locations: NEPA's Documentation Center, the National Environment and Planning Agency's website, the National Works Agency's website, CL Environmental Company Limited's website, Negril Branch Library, which is at West End Road, Negril, Westmoreland, and finally the Negril Green Island Area Local Planning Authority, which is here in Negril. Thank you for participating in the process. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Miss Gilpin. Yes?
I'm Diana McCauley. I'm from the Jamaica Environment Trust, and I need to ask the NEPA rep why their public comment period has been shortened from 30 days to 4 days. 4 days is completely inadequate and it reaches their own guidelines.
That's a valid question, because I had that written down as well. From Ms. Gilpin's presentation, I understand her to be saying that there has been a change of scope. An EIA was finalized on the 29th of the 4th month this year. That's April. And there has been a change of scope. And I also overheard her saying that no decision has been taken at this time. Yes? And I share the concern about the 4 days of this presentation for feedback. But again, I'm going to ask you to hold the questions when we get to the question and answer time. I'm sure Ms. Gilpin won't believe in us. Is she? No? She'll be here. So let's hold the questions, because we don't want to keep you here for 2 hours. Ms. Grizzly expressed the concern, and I'm trying to work with her in that regard. But I don't want you to forget your question. So if you could just write it down, and we'll take it at the question and answer time. Whilst we allow the other persons, because your answer may come out in the presentation of the others. So let us hear the others and see what happens. The next speaker is going to be Mr. Roger Smith, who is from the National Works Agency, and he's going to be telling us of the National Works Agency statement. You just heard the NEPA statement. So let us hear what the NWA statement is. A hand is up. Yes?
I'm a resident here in Negril. I thought I heard NEPA say they wouldn't take any more in their statement.
That was said, but we may be able to veto that to some extent.
Good afternoon. This was to be less of an NWA statement, but more of an introduction to the presentation at hand. I want to, first of all, thank you all for attending. It may have been at short notice. We ourselves were given the notice last week to do the further presentation as it relates to this breakwater project. I would want to now just give a short recap from NWA's perspective as to how we have reached, where we have reached, and where we have. It may parallel some of what NEPA has already given in their statement, but for the record, for our perspective, I will give this introduction. NWA was engaged in 2012 by PIOJ NEPA to manage the implementation of this project. The project by then was defined as the construction of this breakwater facility. Funding for same having been secured from the adaptation fund of the World Bank. Our responsibilities under our agreement entail engaging consultants, and this was done through a competitive process with the view that consultants, once engaged, would complete designs for the breakwater, validate the solutions through scale modeling and preparation of EIA for submission to NEPA as part of the licensing process. They have the responsibility also of preparing contract documents and specifications if we reach to that point. To date, the consultant has been engaged. The validation of the breakwater model has been done by scale modeling in the United States. It forms part of the EIA submission, and we have submitted, as NEPA previously said, the EIA for consideration in the licensing process. Back in July, as part of the process, a stakeholders meeting was held. I think in this very room. I wasn't here. And going through the transcript, I could understand for the first time, obviously, the stakeholders would have been reacting to what they thought was a process which they previously would have had other elements designed, and I would have thought the process would have been going in one of two directions. And so I gather the meeting was perhaps very forthright, and people spoke their minds. As we can see, the stenographers are here, and similar to that meeting, this meeting will have the minutes of the meeting recorded and be submitted to NEPA as part of the overall EIA process. That's my understanding. And so I would say, for the record, NWA recognizes that you, the stakeholders of Negril, with all your concerns, have had the concerns recorded for a meeting and are now before NEPA as part of the process of evaluating the overall project. As I stand here, I am no wiser than you whether the process will be approved in its submitted form or will be subject to even rejection or approval with conditions that obviously take into consideration your concerns. In reviewing the submission, NEPA raised specific questions to the consultant, and as I said previously, as part of the arrangement for implementing the project, the NWA was responsible for engaging the consultant. Arising from that has been a revisit on the area designated as a staging area. And as NEPA indicated earlier in their statement, as part of the process, NWA is required, and has fulfilled the obligation by coming today to present the modifications that have been agreed with NEPA. I know that other issues, I can read assurance, relate fundamentally to the breakwater, and I suspect to the scheduling of the construction, given the overall plan. That is something that NEPA is more than well aware of, and as part of the process of licensing, those considerations will be taken into concern. For our part, NWA, we have been engaged, as I said before, to manage the process through, and we shall follow any and all the dictates as laid out in the licensing process. Having said that, I think the First Lady that spoke was Grizzly, and perhaps it's rarer. Perhaps there was an expectation that there would have been more to present today. Unfortunately, as Nico said prior, the specific change that we have agreed to with respect to the staging area as part of the process, we now have to come back to the stakeholders and give an update. I would want to take something positive out of this by saying, notwithstanding that it relates now to one specific area, and it may be two items. And unfortunately, the coastal engineer is not here, as you pointed out. We will still engage and still record the ongoing, and if there are new concerns, because as I see it, this is part of the process. And NEPA, once we put the transcript before them, will take into consideration any and all further concerns that you, the stakeholders, have. Having said that, I don't know, sort of ask Ms. Lynn to give this very short presentation which addresses those two specific areas. Ms. Lynn has been introduced as our environmental officer. She's actually a trained environmental engineer. She had been previously in another department, director at Parish in NWA, and on the departure of our Dr. Richards, who has left the agency, she has assumed the role of carrying the environmental mantle for the agency. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon, my presentation will be directly dealing with the changes to the project. My presentation today will follow this outline. I'm going to give just a brief overview, some benefits, project schedules and activities, breakwater area, work execution plan, what the original, sorry?
I'm very sorry, but all of that we've seen. If you could just go to the new plan and the changes, we would really appreciate it.
Okay.
We've seen all of that already, over and over and over. Thank you.
We don't want to see it again.
Okay. So, the two material changes will be to the staging area, which is located this side of the southern of the plan, which is that the staging area will be removed after construction. And also, sorry. So the removal of the staging area, as well as there will be no dredging to the South Negril River.
Barge didn't go in the water.
Pardon me?
Barge didn't go in the water.
Okay, let me finish the presentation first. And then I'll facilitate all questions. Okay. So, let me start back to the work execution plan, because you're all here to find out what these changes are. You don't want to hear about any of the engineering aspects, just the work execution plan, how we're going to go about all our activities. So the work execution plan, within this aspect, the staging area, where we'll be stockpiling all the boulders to build the breakwaters, it will be, to this section. This is from the Caribbean Sea. So prior to an approval of a beach license, this area will be dredged from the Caribbean Sea. In the original plan stated that we would dredge the South Negril River for fill material for the staging area. However, that will not be done anymore because we would not want to change the hydraulics of the river. Environmental concerns as it pertains to water quality, there will be turbidity barriers being placed up all around the sites. And you can see from the original plan that we originally wanted to desilt the South Negril River and to desilt the area adjacent, the area to the Caribbean Sea. The area to the Caribbean Sea, prior to approval, will be desilted. This slide shows an example of a turbidity barrier. This is a local project, the Palisados, and
Which is breaking up.
okay. So to just go through the entire two material changes, no desilting of the South Negril River, and the storage area will be removed after the project is completed. A closure plan is to be presented to NEPA, and that will be done shortly. So we'll facilitate all questions right now.
For instance, Carol Nelson, Citizen of Negril.
Before we start taking the questions, we just have to remind ourselves of a couple of the home rules. Persons who have questions are free to air your question. Be informed as to who is it you want to respond to your question. Yes? Don't just leave it as an open-ended question. Direct your question to somebody so that you can get a good response. We will take the questions in order. There is a microphone in the passageway that you can use so that everybody can hear you. And the stenographers will be able to capture all of what is being said. Remember, if you cough, the stenographers capture that as well. So be very mindful of utterances. Mr. Nelson is by the microphone, so I will take it that Mr. Nelson has the first question.
Sir, is that I heard sit on the matter that the mouth of the Negril River not supposed to judge?
The young lady just said that the presence of all of these people here today is to inform the Negril community of two changes to the proposed plan that you were familiar with in July. One of the two changes is that they will be removing the area where all the things would have been stored during construction. That after construction they're going to remove all of that. That's one. And secondly, it was said then that they would dredge the Negril River, use the silt and the whatever is garnered there to help to bolster the area where the stuff would have been stored. They ain't going to be doing that again. So they have come to let we all know that these two changes will be taking place. And they will also have to resubmit the application to NEPA. I have it that there is the submission is yet to be approved and rejected based on what Mr. Smith said. So those are the two things. So let's take the questions now that we have cleared that.
Mr. James. Mr. James?
Yes?
If I could, just to clarify, in case it sort of missed everyone, the original plan was to construct a cofferdam on the seaside, on the near shore of the river, and in order to assist in filling out to get the stage area, it was contemplated to descend the river. That's the
Hold on a moment. I'm hearing some mutterings. We are missing some things. Sorry, Mr.
To descend the South Negril River, and in addition,
speak up.
And in addition to dredge to the seaside of the sheep pile in order to derive the draft needed for the barges to be loaded with the boulders to be carried out to the breakwater. What is now contemplated is no longer to descend the river. There will still be a nominal dredging on the seaside to get the draft. But the reason we have done that is that in the contemplation of dredging the buildup of material in the South Negril River, consideration had to be given to what effect it would have on the morass and the ecosystem as we refer to it. The concern would be that in dredging that also, whatever contaminants there are, I use the word advisedly, would have flushed out to sea. What we have done is taken a decision as best as we think possible not to impact the environment, and so we have decided to forego that, thereby leaving the river in its present state. That's not to say that perhaps in an elevated storm event it won't flush itself out, but then that won't be a man-made occurrence. To make up that shortfall of fill to the staging area, the contract will now allow for importation of the fill that was required from approved quarries.
Thank you very much. We have somebody at the microphone.
Yes, Mary Viara again. I wanted to ask, I understand NEPA says they're not here to answer questions. However, she said that this is a project that is not yet approved. The PIOJ, who is National Implementing Entity, in an interview with an Associated Press journalist, made a statement that has gone all over the internet that they expect this project to start next year. So, while NEPA does not wish to answer that question, and I have asked it formally in a letter to Mr. Knight, I have not yet received a reply.
I thank you very much. I also would want to ask that question because you've been hearing things, I've been hearing things. The funds have been approved. Funds have a lifespan and have to be used up within a given time. How close are we to the expiry of the lifespan? If the project is not yet approved, we are still in the dialogue stage because this evening is a dialogue evening. So we are still in the dialogue stage. When will we get out of the dialogue stage? When will the project be approved by NEPA? When will the funds be expired? Those are some concerns I have. Anyhow, you are here to express your concern.
My other question would be to Mr. Smith from NWA. He said that the coastal engineers are not here this evening. Have you hired new consultants for this job? Because it's my understanding that no one on it is actually a coastal engineer.
Can we get a response, Mr. Smith?
I was going to answer the first question. If we have...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can't recall the question.
You had a question before the coastal engineer.
No, I said he made a comment that the coastal engineer consultants are not here this evening. So I'm asking if there's a new consultant.
No, he wants to answer the one before that about the web, World Wide Web.
No, that's the one.
That's the one?
No, we haven't hired a new consultant.
So there's still no coastal engineer on this project then?
Well, SIAC is the consulting firm.
Yes, but they're not coastal engineers, sir, sorry.
So that's a concern.
I would answer by saying, as part of the licensing and permitting stage, certainly I read that in the transcript. Okay, sorry. Certainly, I think that was raised in the July 2014 meeting, and as I indicated earlier, that would be part of the document submission before NEPA. NEPA is in possession of the consultant's qualifications, etc. So, the review of same decisions would be with NEPA at the permitting level.
Sorry, but Mr. Smith, NWA approved the contractors and their resumes are online.
Yes.
What I'm reading you to say, Mr. Smith, is that the document from NWA that has been submitted to NEPA outlines the engineers with their resume, and it is now for NEPA to review that and determine whether the persons named as persons involved, engineers, etc., meet specification for that project to be implemented by their say. And that's how I'm reading it. So it's for NEPA then to say, okay, John Brown is not a coastal engineer. You have named John Brown on your project as a coastal engineer. He's not one. Go back and do your homework and find a code. Am I trying to get to it?
No,
okay.
My name is Diana McCauley. I'm from the Jamaica Environment Trust. Mr. James, the concerns that you're hearing are because people are concerned that the kind of oversight that NEPA should give or ought to give is not going to occur. Okay. Right? That is the basis of the concerns that you're hearing. And there's good reason for it, because if in July this issue of coastal engineers was raised and we're here now in November and the answer is the same, I can actually tell you that I saw SIAC advertising for coastal engineers in the last day or so. So, it seems to me that really is actually the answer to the question. I would also like to say to you as chairman that you asked us to say which entity we would like to direct our questions to.
Yes.
But you have a statement from NEPA saying that they will not answer any questions. So I guess the only people here that will answer questions are the National Works Agency.
And I would want to...
But I want to know, is the Planning Institute here? Because my understanding is they are the lead agency.
I would advise you, using my position now, I would advise you to state your question, even though it may have been said that the questions will not be answered. Okay. Why I'm saying it, it's being recorded.
Okay, I will put my questions to NEPA then. Is the PIOJ here?
No.
Is the Planning Institute here, please?
No.
The answer is no.
Planning Institute is not here. I'm repeating that for the record. Okay, my questions. So we are being told that, yes, there's still going to be the staging area. The fill from it is coming somewhat from dredging close by, if I'm understanding you, and also from approved quarries.
From importation.
And that it will be removed at the end of the project. I would like to refer you to the Palisados project. You really should not have put up anything about the Palisados project up there, because a similar situation applied there. The head office of China Harbour Engineering was placed in actually a very sensitive area of the Palisados Strip. There were various plants that had to be moved. They simply leveled the area and they spread mud. And at the end of the process, Mr. Chairman, they did take their buildings, but to this day, that mud is still there. So there has been absolutely no renovation, restoration of that site, which also is in a protected area. Furthermore, the question of the silt screens which were on that screen, which is supposed to now constrain the dredging. When you're dredging, there's likely to be siltation. You don't want the silt to end up on the coral reef. I have numerous photographs of those silt screens washed up on the coastline at the Palisados. And this is a concern that you hear when you come to meetings like this, that people have all too frequent knowledge of the failure to meet the promises that are made in these public meetings, which is now facing a constrained comment period of 4 months. My organization has been to court twice on this point, and both times we have been successful. Why is it that we have to keep revisiting these established issues about comment periods? It just makes people feel there's no good faith at work. That is what I want to say. And my last question is about the no dredging in the South Negril River. I believe there are concerns about the mouth of that river. So I wanted a clarification about when you say there's going to be dredging sort of in the sea. I would like a lot more clarity about that. But essentially, all you're saying to us is you plan to go ahead with the breakwaters despite all the objections that have been said, and the small concession you're going to make is that you're going to pick up the staging area that no one wants at the end of it.
Although the question I think was directed to...
Sorry, someone is correcting me. I just want to say your comment period is 4 days, not 4 months, just because it's being reported. 4 days is unconscionable. We're supposed to have passed that stage years ago. Everybody at NEPA knows it. Yes, Mrs. Smith.
Do we have any more questions or concerns? Yes? The microphone is there.
Good evening. My name is Sophie Cruz-Romel. Well, first of all, the filling in of the land that you plan to do, that was one of the major issues we had as well. It wasn't just the dredging of the river was a very major issue, but the filling in of our coastline is a tremendous issue. And I mean, you cut off the mountain top, I can't see how you're going to build it up back again. Because once you fill that in, how are you going to replace the sandy beach? What you're going to do? Remove the sand and put it back when you finish? I mean, it's just unconceivable how you're going to bring it back to what it was before. It's impossible. I mean, you're dealing with nature. You cannot replace nature. Once you destroy it, it's irreplaceable. That's question 1. Would you like to answer that one, or?
I'm not sure the question itself.
Well, it's a concern, and I mean, what are you going to do? Create magic? How are you going to put it back to where it was?
I would anticipate that as part of the licensing and the permitting, we'll be directed as to how to do that. But if you want to physically know what I contemplate will happen, is that at the end, similar to how we have excavator dredging the draft, we will then come in and in a similar process remove the material. Will it be exactly down to the levels that you have now? I could say yes, because we have a baseline survey of it. Will it have sand replaced? If sand is there, then I expect that to be part of the conditions of the permit. And earlier I wanted to address just a comment that Ms. McCauley made. I think perhaps I'm not familiar with Palisades, so I'm not sure of exactly construction. What I would say though is that as part of this contracting process, as we have contemplated, if it's part of the permit, and again I stress, if the project is approved, it certainly will be part of the requirements for the contractor to do, failing which there are funds that are retained in every contract, and I'm sure with the vigilance of NEPO, the contractors and the parties to the contract will be obliged to do that.
Mr. Smith, I'm very sorry, but exactly the same thing happened at Palisades. NWA was a contractor, the consultant was checked, it was a condition of the permit, it was never done, it has never been done to this day. If money was retained, it was never used. All you hear is the money came out at the end of it. I personally went to a meeting at NEPO to hear that taxpayers were going to be asked to do the environmental remediation that those permits called for. That is what happened.
You're speaking. Are you speaking at the job site or?
Both at the job site, which was part of the permit, and the other environmental remediation that was necessary. All the promises you are making here today were made at a similar public meeting, were written into the environmental permit, and simply have not been done. You know, until the government agencies that sit at the front of these public meetings understand how shot their credibility is, we're not really going to get anywhere. Because we all have seen these things promised over and over again, and when it comes down to it, they're simply not done. And there's no going back, you know, Mr. Smith. When the thing is done, right, and it mash up, and there's a pile of silt out there, and a pile of marl and everything, and it not put back, then what?
I'm sure you've taken into consideration the natural springs that come up there. So when you block them, I'm sure you're going to help BNS rebuild their bank, right? But that's not really... Yeah, I don't think you know about that, but you've been down here for years checking out the area, but that's, I'm sure you're not aware of it. Moving on. The other major problem that you have not addressed is the blockage of the West End. Now, I have some of the most expensive hotels in Negril are actually on the West End. Now, you have not dealt with that issue. You have not dealt with the road that is going to be the other road that we're going to use, which all the school children walk on, and those big coaches cannot maneuver around those corners. I would hate to have one of the children in Negril be killed over a breakwater. That's another issue. But the final thing that I'd like to say, and this is not a question, it is a statement. I'm going to be honest with you. Even if you built the breakwater out of gold, Negril does not want a breakwater at all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fraser. We need to remind ourselves that this evening meeting is to deal with two issues. And that's so let's remind ourselves. Mr. Piolsin, do you have a question?
So James, I would add further that I think I did say earlier that the additional comments recorded, which will be submitted to the report, I think is vital to the process, because it will certainly emphasize to NEPO what the stakeholders think. We're all sitting here saying it is a fait accompli. Where I sit, I'm not sure. I will wait to see what NEPO approves or does not approve.
Before Mr. Kirsten speaks, based on what I'm hearing, I am a little layman, not very intelligent. But based on what I'm hearing, it sounds to me like the ultimate answer with regards to the implementation or non-implementation of this project rests with NEPA. That's how it sounds to me.
And no one else.
Yes, because NWA submit their proposal with all the ingredients that go into it, and it's for NEPA to say, look, this can't work, that can't work, or change that, we're not granting a permit, that's how I'm reading it. I may be quite wrong, but that's how I am reading it. It sounds like the ultimate answer rests at NEPA's doorsteps. Yes, Mr. Currency.
No accuracy. I'd just like to make an observation. You refer to the Negril outside of the closer where the river enters the ocean. That instead, that area will be dredged to accommodate the drafts, for the barges to transport the material. The thing is this, that once it's started dredging, what is the problem? What is going to happen now with the silt that is going to result? The turbidity of the water and the currents both go, north and south. What will happen to the beach during that phase of construction and the reef? Has that been taken into consideration, the effect it will have on the tourist season?
Somebody.
Can you hear me? Yeah. As I'm advised, in the South Negril River, there are essentially two deposits. One that is, I think, just downstream of...
Yeah, we are having some grumblings. We are missing out on some information, vital information. Please listen this way.
Yes, please.
Sorry, somebody was speaking before you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Afterwards.
Just downstream of the bridge. That's the one that we intend not to disturb for the reasons stated earlier. On the shoreline, the material that will be required to be removed for the draft will be removed and stockpiled. I suspect if we go forward with the project, that will be a condition of NEPA as elsewhere they have dictated. Once we get to the point of removing the stage area, then that stockpile sand will be returned to the area to address the issue that the gentleman raised about the turbidity. The engineer and the science of it, these turbidity barriers work. I think you have led me to a point that I would sort of perhaps not wanted to have dealt with here because it was part of the original submission, but it's to acknowledge, and I would agree with you. At some point in this project, one, we're going to pass through a tourist season. Two, we're going to pass through a hurricane season. God forbid if a hurricane comes and further hits directly Negril. If it happens next year, by then the staging area would have been constructed. The issue of the turbidity would perhaps not be an issue as it would be when we go to construction. I should say if and when we go to construction. For me, the timing is a little unsure now, because we're not sure when we'll get the permit, if we'll get the permit. But on the best assumption that we go forward in January, February, then we would meet a hurricane season perhaps in June. The staging area would have by then been well constructed and in service, and perhaps that turbidity issue would not be as critical as if it were to occur during the construction of same.
Next question.
How much is all this rubbish going to cost?
I'm Elaine Allen Bradley, and I would just like to make a couple of points. In the previous meeting, I believe Ms. McCauley did ask a question, was it illegal to be dumping up to build? That was one, and that wasn't really answered. The other thing, I must give NWA some kudos because you did listen at least to one thing about the dredging of the river. The second thing was that we do not have any confidence in NWA overseeing anything. Because, look at the state of the roads. How are you going to manage in the sea if you can't even manage the roads that we are witnessing? Palisados is another thing. So, tell me how. We have no confidence in NWA at all. Full stop. And you're going to manage this project? Heaven forbid.
Hear you? Yes, ma'am?
Yes, sir. I am a citizen. I live in Negril.
Yes.
And I am in Negril now for over 30 years.
Yes.
And I could just say one word. I would ask to know, in the 80s, was there a nipper who have ever seen what Negril is like?
But that is more than one word.
That's right, sir. And I would ask this morning, because I heard everybody is clapping, that we don't want a breakwater system. I was living in Montego Bay, and I remember as a girl in my 60s and so we used to go to Coral Wall, and that's where the sea used to be. When you sit on the wall, you're looking in the sea. And look what Montego Bay is like now. You know what I saw this morning? I saw a pile of tires, can, all kind of stuff dragged out of the river and put right before the gas station. You know what happened? If we don't have a system in place now to develop the grid, what are we clapping about? We have mosquito, we have garbage.
All right. The good thing about the truck and the tire, I saw the tires, but they didn't just pile them on the roadside. The truck had removed all of them.
That's right, but even though they moved them, if NEPA was doing their work, isn't those things are dangerous things?
But when NEPA put them there, we put them there.
That's right, but look now, sir. If we have in a development, we look at Negril. I go on the beach the other day with the granddaughter and she had rash all over her. And she didn't have the dengue or whatever the fever name. Because the condition is that the place needs to be developed, and we come to find out now that instead of we talking and turning down this and that, the place is in a mess. How are we going to start now? If NEPA is turning it down, the citizens is clapping. And look at the state of the place. So we need some information to see that we're going forward with the state.
I hear you. But,
yes, sir.
But we also have to remember that big finger can't sell little finger ugly.
Well, it don't matter if they're on the hand. It don't matter. It's how I use there now on the hand. We need to get serious now. We listen to this meeting. And if we don't want the National Work Agency to develop and to clean up the thing and to get the business going, who we going to need? Who we have? I don't have no national.
Maybe there is somebody better off than NWA to do it. We don't know.
When we have to talk to who we see now. We need National Work Agency in the place. We need development. We need the place to clean up. We need business people suffering. So when we sit down in books, sir.
Yes, I hear you. And people like you are necessary.
Yes,
because
sir.
we all have to grow in the mix.
Of course.
Yes, so we have those who will agree and those
yes,
who will
sir.
not agree.
And I agree to have the place
developed.
Developed, sir.
Good. And I hope it will develop before I go on then too. I would love to see it.
Me too, sir. Okay.
All right, thank you. Do we have another Mr. Grisel?
Mr. James,
before Mr. Grisel?
I would just like to make an observation.
Okay, miss, we heard you, so please listen to us now.
And I mean, from a personal perspective,
Mrs. Smith mouth no big like mine.
Sorry. From a personal perspective, and this is why I share the sentiments of the stakeholders in Negril. You are confronted with a problem, the solution to which I know has been postulated. There is the issue of beach nourishment, breakwater, and a couple other points raised in what I understand to have been all the studies done so far. Clearly, the solution of breakwater is coincident in perhaps all the studies, and then certainly beach nourishment is one. And I raised the beach nourishment because when Mrs. Grizzly, I think she mentioned, you know, if I had been here before, I can recall coming to Negril with my parents as a young boy, and I took a picture, and this is about 30 years ago, up at Cosmos, and I took the picture out a couple months ago. I looked at it, and I just walked up on the beach a while ago. I recall by Rondell Village a couple of years ago. There really is a tremendous challenge facing the grade of the loss of the beach. And certainly, if the breakwater forms part of the solution, but not all of the solution, then we really need to be as stakeholders voicing that concern also to the policymakers, etc., to implement perhaps the full solution, as we all perhaps agree.
Thank you very much. We have another 15 minutes to be here. Yes, Mr. Grizzle?
Yes, when I was sitting down there and I was listening, and I become even more concerned, because when the question of the coastal engineer came up, it was clear that they haven't yet secured the service of one. Yet, and you also said that NEPA would decide to ensure that all the skills and skills that's needed would be in place in granting the license. Now, the license or the permit, the application is now in front of NEPA, minus an engineer. Now, if NEPA was some organization that was really true to its calling and doing its job, it should refuse to accept that application because it's not complete. And this is a very dangerous rule that we may wind up with giving permit to do a job without the skills needed. And therefore, you cannot expect the people in Negril to have any confidence in anything that NEPA will be saying to us now. Because right there, they are not even living up to their expectation. They are not even ensuring that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted in the application. And an engineer is not a minor part of that application.
Thank you, Mr. Grizzle. The would say that you cannot give a shoemaker contract to build the road.
If I could, just for the record, state that the gentleman's name, Mr. Grizzle, he stated that, just for the record, SIAC, who are the consultants, are a registered engineering firm. Mr. Burgess is a registered engineer. And I would have to go back through, but I'm almost sure he has a qualification that allows for him to participate in projects like this.
Thank you. That point is up for the discussion as to whether that engineer or that company has coastal engineering skills or qualification. But that, as I said, that's something that is up for discussion. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'd like to just share something very brief with you. We as stakeholders and residents here in Negril were very concerned about the fact that this project was being proposed. It's not something that we knew about in a timely manner. It was foisted on us. And we went and did our own research, and we went to the Dutch. The Dutch are the #1 people in the world for protecting their coastlines, because 26% of their country is underwater. And we went to Van Oord, who's a large dredging company that does beach nourishment. They're here in the Caribbean. So we invited NEPA NWA, PIOJ, everybody to come to that meeting to hear about what can be done, what it would cost, etc. We even went and did sand probing to ensure that we had that. Not one government agency showed up for that meeting. We offered to host them, put them up, whatever it was that was necessary. If they needed transportation, people were willing to pay for it. They all declined the offer. We then went further and went to the research institute called Deltares. There are over 800 employees there. They're coastal engineers, they're ecologists, they're scientists who look at entire projects. They have a project that is very forward thinking. They are moving away from building hard structures in the Netherlands to protect their coastline. They're going with a project called Building with Nature. They came here and did a presentation to us, and not one government agency would come to it. The only people on this project that took the time to send their employees was CL Environmental. And they were thrilled with what they heard. And it's a pity that the government would not stop and pay attention and listen to what is being done elsewhere in the world and see how it can be used here to make it a win-win for everybody. Instead, you tell us that we have to have a breakwater, it's going to do this. We have no confidence. I'm very sorry, Mrs. Bradley touched on the point that NWA cannot even maintain our roads properly. I hope you all drove on the south coast. And it's not bad now compared to what it has been. How long is that road going to last? We've been hearing for how long that the road from Little London into Negril is going to be fixed. We can't see it fixed. We have Reggae Marathon coming up there. The road is full of potholes everywhere. Yes, we need development, but we also need the infrastructure in place and the proper research done. Not a handout of grasping at projects here and there. Oh, we can get this money, let's do it here. At that presentation, they told us that the beach with the least amount of erosion in Jamaica was at Alligator Pond, Little Ochi. 1 week later, they were on the news with all the beach erosion they're suffering there. I had been there 2 weeks before and I couldn't believe when they said that. And there was NEPA saying, oh, well, they could do beach nourishment here because we could take the sand from the dunes and put on their beach. Negril doesn't have sand, so we can't do that there. The dunes are a very important part of the environment. You don't take sand from the dunes and nourish your beach. Right? And this is what we get out of NEPA. And then you expect us to think that we should listen to you, believe in what you're saying. I'm very sorry. I've never seen any of you here before to a presentation. So it's just a new set of faces, same old story. Sorry.
Thank you. I am sure your voice is being recorded.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I can't say I was personally sort of aware of that pardon? The Dutch presentation. I certainly would have come to view that, and I'm now just thinking on my feet if the Van Oor presentation is documented. I don't think it's ever too late to have it introduced as part of the deliberation.
If you give me your email address, I can send you some of the links.
Thank you.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We've had a lot of meetings concerning this subject. And what the community is saying is not getting through with a stone wall. We are not getting through as to what the community, the stakeholders want. I think there's only one thing left for us to do, to write to the Prime Minister and let them know we do not want this. It's as simple as that. We do not want it. That is the only thing left to do. We do not want it. There are too much flaws in this program. Too many. And every time you ask a question, you dance around the answer and we never get the answer. And as we talk, a little bit of band-aid subject will put on the matter, but the main subject is left untouched. We have one option open, and it's to write to the Prime Minister to tell him that the stakeholders of Negril do not want this project. There are too much flaws in it.
Excuse me, sir. Just for my benefit, could you just state clearly what your no. You said there's just one solution. Can you just tell me what that is? I mean,
We want to write to the Prime Minister to let you know that we do not want the project.
no, what I meant, sorry. I thought what you meant was no breakwater, but in lieu of breakwater, is there a proposal?
The alternative to the breakwater.
Yes, we have made alternatives.
And that would be the...
We have made alternatives, but they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear.
Deltaris is actually, I'm going to answer that question for you. Deltaris, who have been monitoring the sand engine, I don't know if any of you up there know what that is. It started in 2011. They are looking to use that knowledge and what they've learned from that project at 12 locations in the world for research. They came to Negril at the expense of these stakeholders here, and they would like to use Negril, and they are in the process of going through different reports and studies to give us a proposal. They're not selling us on doing work, on constructing anything. They're going to tell us what we can do to preserve our beach in the most environmentally friendly way, and at the same time it will be very sustainable and cost us less money. And it will not protect 1.5 miles of beach as these proposed breakwaters are supposed to do. It will do the entire length of Long Bay.
Can I ask you a question before you leave? That kind of proposal that you spoke about just now, has that ever been forwarded to NWA?
They have not given us the proposals as yet. They came here, they did some studies. They're in the process of doing it.
Okay.
Okay? And as I said, it's way forward thinking. It does not just take in the coastal protection. And furthermore, what they're proposing will actually take into consideration sea level rise, which a breakwater does not.
So would it
which
be
is
okay?
what the money from the adaptation fund is all about.
Would it be okay, therefore, to ask the government, NEPA and the NWA, to put a hold on the implementation of this breakwater project to allow your consultation to be complete so that there can be a comparison?
I believe the cutoff for the money is next year, June.
We know how to stretch to make time, keep funds available. No, that would be my suggestion, you know. Ask, with all what is going on, yes, the money have a lifespan, but we can know how to get, nothing is cast in stone. We ask them to hold the project. We are in the middle of conducting a research on this thing. It's not yet complete. Allow us to complete our research so that you have something to compare with your proposal. And we'll see which one is the best. And I don't have much sense. I know that. Yes,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say something to address the concerns of my sister over here about the state of Negril, right? I am from Kingston, but I've been coming here since I was a child, like many of you. And I, too, am appalled by the state of Negril. But I think you and I differ as to why it is in the state it is in. And I want to say we are standing here on the grounds of the major environmental and planning agencies in Negril. This is their offices, right? And I would ask you all to look around at the state of this piece of land, right? The garbage, the problem in Negril is the way it has been allowed to develop. It has been allowed to develop without the kind of order and control that ought to be exercised by these very same, in fact, these planning agencies who are now assuring us they are suddenly going to be different. I want to say that if we do not, I have been hearing about the reasons for the beach erosion and the various other problems in Negril, including poor water quality, overfishing, removal of mangroves, poor sewage treatment. There's a long list of them since the mid-1990s. The problems are extremely well known, described, studied, agreed. But what we have not been able to do is to address those problems. We keep standing up in this kind of meeting and coming up with these band-aid solutions. instead of looking at the planning that has not been done in Negril, taking some decision about setbacks, for example, restoring of coastal vegetation, you know, and we refuse to do those things, and my sister, until we do those things, you are going to see things in Negril deteriorate, not improve. So it is our job as citizens, the reason we are here in a public meeting, it is our job as citizens to hold the government agencies accountable for these failings. And it is not enough, with all due respect to my NEPA friends, and they have heard this from me many times, for them to sit in the back of the room and refuse to take questions. At a public meeting, you are correct. It is going to be them who makes the decision whether or not this goes ahead. How can it be appropriate for them to sit in the back of the room? So unless Negril decides it wants a different future than its present, you will continue to live in a dirty, disorganized, I don't know what else to say, I run out of words, all right, which is not very usual. But it's a mess. It is a mess, and unless you decide to take hold of it here today,
you must stop talking and do. One last question. Yes, Mr. Mr. Williams, hand went up. I allowed both of you. After that, no more. Mr. Williams, you just come in with school even things. So you stand behind Mr. Hill.
We need no time for Mr. James.
That means you're working here. Stand behind Mr. Hill.
What was that?
No, he's to stand behind you. Go ahead, Mr. Hill.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My concern, I came in a little late, but my concern is West End. What does NWA have up their sleeve for us? In terms of the project being implemented.
Oh, you mean your survival on West End when the project is being done?
Because let's put it this way. These government agencies will go ahead and do some things that we don't want. And all we're going to be able to do is just sit back and make noise, and they still will project. They will still fit in somehow. Unless we go there and start demonstrate like all the other hooligans in Jamaica who demonstrate.
And only hooligan demonstrate?
No. But what I'm talking about is the implementation of this project down here. What is really being planned out here?
You missed it.
I missed it, but I want to know from the gentleman here. Where is the barges and what have you? Where will they be?
You missed it. Ask Mrs. Bradley to tell you. She'll tell you.
Believe me, I'm so nervous now that I can't even come.
Yeah, man. The others are very knowledgeable. Miss McCauley and everybody else.
Might as well close up and just start breaking down.
Well, I made my suggestion. Yes, Mr. Williams?
Yes, Mr. James.
I
must say that it is very important. This is Lambert Williams, the Director of Projects for the Negril Coral Reef Preservation Society. Yes, we do. Like every organization in Jamaica, we have our ups and downs. Well, let me say this.
All right, go ahead with your question.
People not to interrupt me.
Who is interrupting you?
Sorry, there are a lot of noise coming from every angle.
Please note that
Mr.
Mr. Williams, he represents the Coral Reef Preservation.
And let me say this, that about 7 years ago, when the hoteliers in Negril were panicking, the Member of Parliament set up a beach restoration committee. And the beach restoration committee, in conjunction with Wickham McNeil and the NCRPS, get some funding from the Environmental Foundation of Jamaica. We got about close to $90,000 US to do a study, because the Member of Parliament and the committee, chaired by Daniel Grizzle, recognized that any solution to the erosion in Negril, it must be systematic.
Was a study done?
I have here in my hand
the study that was done by Smith Warner International at the cost of $90,000 US.
And what happened to it?
The study says, and it won't take 5 minutes.
The study was intended for whose attention?
The study, it was, listen to me now, it was a study that was properly done.
Intended for whose attention?
For the Beach Restoration Committee's attention. The Beach Restoration Committee never had any legitimacy, and so the NCRPS, who had a long track record of dealing with the environment,
yes,
not perfect. The committee was called the NCRPS Beach Restoration Committee, and this man, Lambert Williams, was held.
The Negril.
That's a order, Mr. Chairman.
Let me
get to the point.
Mr. James, for legal reason, the committee was called the Negril Coral Reef Beach Restoration.
Point taken. Yes, go ahead.
And this is the Beach Restoration Bible in my hand.
That's not helping us right now?
No, hold on. The United Nations decided that they want to help mitigate climate change. And so they decided they want to fund a project.
Yes.
And so they are accountable to their board and everybody is accountable to somebody else.
Yes.
So whatever one does, it must be systematic in their approach. And they took up this. I was the one, Lambert Williams, that was held accountable for the Environmental Foundation of Jamaica money that was spent for the study. Meaning,
yes,
the Environmental Foundation had to get value for the money. The process had to be transparent, it had to be fair, and it had to be above board.
And you have said all of that to say what?
I'm saying that. Let me say this. That this is the conclusion of the study. Let me read 2 little paragraphs here.
You have 3 minutes.
The primary cause of erosion along the beach in Negril is the incoming swell waves that beat along the coastline. Although these events are infrequent, occurring 2 to 8 times per year, they have the potential to cause severe erosion. An effective solution to the erosion problem should therefore is to reduce the wave energy that reaches the shoreline and provide protection to the beach.
How?
Hold on, if they are so, hold on.
Yes.
They look at multiple solutions. Here's this now. Beach nourishment simply involves the placement of sand on the beach and harbor protection by reducing the wave energy near shore and creating sacrificial beach to be eroded during a storm.
Yes.
It is the most non-intrusive technique used to resist coastal erosion and is the only method of introducing large quantities of sand into the system. Once the sand is placed on the beach, the daily wave action will reshape the profile, redistributing sand in both cross section.
That's what
it said. It said sacrificial. I wanted to.
That's one recommendation. What's the other one?
No, but it says a sacrificial, meaning if you put it down, they might lose it.
Yeah, that's a recommendation.
It's not a recommendation.
Mr. Nelson, I couldn't write that, you know.
No. Near shore breakwater reduce wave energy that reaches the coast and protect the beach in their lee. Breakwater construction, as opposed to solely nourishment the beach, addresses the cause of the erosion. The option include constructing breakwater to reduce the wave energy reaching the shoreline, in conjunction with beach nourishment to ensure adequate beach width for Negril. The erosion rate at Long Bay are much more severe than that observed in Bloody Bay, with the erosion in Long Bay approximately twice that of Bloody Bay, while erosion in Long Bay seems to be getting worse. The Bloody Bay coastline
we won't have the time to hear all of the recommendations. I appreciate what you have brought to the fore.
Mr. James, you're shutting me down.
No, I'm not shutting you down, but we have a time frame. We have a time frame we are working with. Allow me chairman privilege, please.
One more minute, sir, please.
Allow me chairman privilege, please.
One more minute, Mr. Chairman.
Please allow me the privilege of the chairman.
One more minute, sir.
Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
We recognize your presence and we appreciate what you have brought to the fore.
Yes.
However,
yes.
At the very outset, persons present here when you were not yet present expressed the concern that they are business people and have limited time within which to sit for meetings of this nature. We have gone over an hour, going to the other side of an hour and a half, and we really need to get out of here.
I'm making it 60 seconds more.
The people who came in to have the presentation have clearly stated at the very outset that there were 2 points they want to bring to the community.
Yes.
That they have done. And the various feedback and reaction have been duly recorded. We are very happy to have our nicely looking stenographers here. So please bear in mind that you are being recorded verbatim. So you have 30 seconds to conclude your point.
Thank you. One important factor that has not been fully accounted in the analysis are the maintenance costs for the above mentioned solution. While beach nourishment may provide the optimum solution considering initial costs, it may not be the solution to provide the most value when including maintenance costs in the criteria. From a coastal engineering perspective, the main drawback with beach nourishment alone is that it does not actually target the cause of the erosion. Therefore, one big storm event could completely wipe out the replenished sand as wave action along the beach is not.
What's the date of that report?
It's 2007, sir. This was what I had to bring to the beach restoration committee to get the rest of the money to pay the other. So when some people are saying that the study never recommend breakwater, they never read this.
My research online showed me that they complement each other.
Mr. Chairman, let me just clarify one little misinformation that's been going.
That's based on what Mr. Williams just said?
Yes. First comments with Mr. Williams only came about much later after the person that was there, Mr. Harrison, migrated to Canada. The Beach Restoration Committee, which was made up of several stakeholders, I was the chairman. We secured that money with the help of the MP. When the proposal was presented to us, we made it quite clear that we were not interested in the hard solution. We would pursue the beach nourishment, which would have a minimum effect on the environment. And it's important to note as well that what's the name of the consulting company? When we were seeking someone to do the study, CIAT was one of the company that applied for the job. We rejected them because all they were pushing was hard solution, and it was quite clear that the community did not want a hard solution. So you have to take what Mr. Williams says with a bit of pinch of salt, because he only came in at the very end when the project was finished, and he picked the proposal. Of course, it put several options.
Yes.
What he must say, what was the option that the community decided that they would pursue? And it certainly wasn't breakwater. So he must be careful when he comes to make a big thing about nothing.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to get the correct name. You said it was the Negril Restoration Committee?
Negril Beach Restoration Committee.
Negril Beach Restoration Committee.
Okay.
And before you speak, Mr. Grizzle, what year was that committee formed?
2005. It was about 2005.
2005 it was born, and it died when?
No, it's not there. Mr. Chair, I would want to say that that has become part of the overall project documentation.
The committee has applied because we were the ones who first wrote to the
organizations that assist in funding projects like this. They then said they no longer fund the project individually, but their fund would go to PIOJ. They directed us to PIOJ. We wrote to PIOJ, and that's how it started. Right. And it's certainly nothing to do with me.
Point A. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Smith, about the Smith-Warner report, first of all, they are qualified coastal engineers. It's a preliminary report that was done in 2007, and they presented something further in 2009. I spoke with David Smith myself at length about that report, and he says it is a misunderstanding of what he wrote in his report. Yes, there are breakwaters in there. They're not in the location that these breakwaters are in. They're not of the size, and everything else has been left out. And he said that beach nourishment was our first option, and the only reason he put breakwaters in was because we are a SID, and we do not have the money, a small island developing state without the money to maintain beach nourishment like they do in the United States, and therefore maybe with 5 years after a nourishment program, we might need to put in some breakwaters to keep the sand in place.
Thank you. Last point, very last.
There is new technology, and I am asking the government, NEPA, PIOJ, to let's look forward. Why are we doing something that was done 300 years ago? The first breakwater was actually built a couple of centuries ago. Why are we using old technology? There is new technology out there. Let's grab it. Varadero Beach welcomes a couple million visitors a year. They do beach nourishment, and they make a lot of money. But there's one thing I'd like to ask. In this NWA brochure you gave out, it says here that the shoreline will grow by 13 meters per annum. Could you tell me where that sand is coming from? Because you see, the breakwater is only going to protect 1.5 miles. So is the sand coming from the other 3.5 miles that will not have a breakwater? Because this is misinformation. It's a lie. Because even in the EIA, it says that it will not accrete sand. It's only going to protect the shore. So this is why we don't trust our government. They tell us lies. They think we're so stupid that we're going to believe everything they tell us. I'm honestly very, very disappointed that you would think so little of our intelligence.
I would want to put it a mile away instead of a hard lie. Maybe it was not proofread.
You're very diplomatic, sir. Very diplomatic.
Mr. Smith would like to say something.
It's indeed an error. I wish to apologize.
You see what I mean? I wasn't too far off.
And I will have it checked, verified, and disseminated the correct.
Yes, it wasn't vetted.
I'm sorry for that.
Apology accepted. Next time we proofread documents before we circulate them. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now for me to say thanks. I have had you here for quite some time. The chairs are not only that comfortable. I would just want to say on behalf of the National Works Agency to thank you all for having shown up for this discussion. I don't want to hit NWA too hard. At least they saw the need to bring you together to share the two things they were correcting. At least they saw that need. And Mrs. Bradley alluded to that. And I want to appreciate that. Yes? It goes to show that our communication is not all that bad. Room for improvement, but not all that bad. But they didn't see the need to communicate with the stakeholders that they were making these two changes. They could have done it, sent it off to NEPA without our input or knowledge. So we want to thank them. We also want to thank the reps from here. Me wouldn't mind if they don't start until they start their cell phones. I also want to thank Nico for having been here. And as I said, in my own little ignorant self, I think that the answer rests with Nico. Because it sounds... Sorry? Right. I want to say that the answer rests with Nico. And if my little nonsensical suggestion can be taken into consideration, that we put a pause on this thing, complete your investigation, have them to compare and see which is the better of the two. I am sure the community will be more receptive in that regard. I want to thank the media for having been here, GIS, and our nice ladies on the stenographers on the stenograph machines for being here and recording the proceedings. Again, thank you all for coming, and I implore NEPO and NWA to keep the community informed. We have our concerns, and we have a right to be concerned. We live here. I was born and bred here, and I remember when Sandy Park Beach did white till to run it down, you're tired. Now there is no beach at Sandy Park. You know, so I know very much. The river out there as a child, I could jump off the bridge and dive in the water crystal clear and don't butt my head at the bottom of it. That's how deep it was. Now, I can't even see the bottom. So I know Negril. I've never been anywhere else. And I am now 60 years of age. I'm proud to say it. Yes? So I know Negril. So we want the best for Negril. We all want the best for Negril. As a child growing up in Negril, you know, you always hear about the mother people. We come warn, the warner people them. They used to warn how Negril went sink because the Sodom and Gomorrah is going to sink. Tidal wave going to come and sink it. Now I always tell them, you have to sink with me. But I have nowhere going. And until now I don't see no tidal wave come sink Negril. And all those who say go and sink around come and Negril. So there must be something here. We all want the best for Negril. We want orderly development. Orderly development. From everybody. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you. And as we depart, I will ask GIS to play the national anthem as we stand in recognition of the national anthem.